The Healing Journey. A young woman named Lan lived in a small village nestled between the green hills of Vietnam. She was known for her radiant smile and the strength that shone through even in the hardest times. But one year, Lan was struck by a mysterious disease. It came suddenly, with a fever that wouldn't go away and a persistent pain that clung to her like a shadow. The villagers were puzzled. No one knew what caused her illness. They tried everything, from herbs to prayers, but nothing seemed to help. Lan's health slowly deteriorated, and she could no longer work in the rice fields or help her family with the daily chores. She spent her days lying in bed, staring at the distant hills, longing for the life she once had. As the weeks turned into months, Lan's family began to lose hope. Her mother, who had always been a pillar of strength, grew more weary with each passing day. "Lan, my dear," she would say, "we've tried everything. Maybe it's time to accept that this is how it is." But Lan, despite the pain consuming her body, refused to give up. She had always been a fighter, and she wasn't about to let this disease define her. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Lan sat up in bed and made a decision. She would find a way to heal. She remembered something her grandmother had once told her. "When life is heavy, the earth will offer you the cure. You must search for it with patience and trust." With newfound determination, Lan began her journey. The next day, she ventured into the forest. Though weak and frail, she pushed herself forward, searching for something that could help her. She collected herbs from the jungle, drank teas made of roots and leaves, and practiced deep breathing exercises every morning. Slowly but surely, Lan began to feel a change. The healing process was slow. Each day, she woke up with a little more strength than the day before. She worked on her body, her mind, and her spirit, refusing to let the disease claim victory. Her family, seeing the changes in her, began to believe again. Her mother would sit by her side, whispering words of encouragement. Her father, who had once given up hope, started working with her to find new ways to improve her health. After several months of persistent effort, Lan was finally able to run freely across the paddy fields again. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. She could feel the healing within her body, not just from the herbs or treatments, but from the unwavering will to overcome. The road was long, but Lan had fought it every step of the way, and now she was stronger than ever. Lan didn't just overcome the disease. She learned something even greater about herself. She learned the power of resilience, the strength that comes from within, and the importance of believing in the possibility of healing. Her journey was a testament to the human spirit's ability to fight, to heal, and to rise above even the hardest of challenges.
The Tale of Little Willow and the Breathing Tree. Once upon a time, in a quiet valley, there was a young girl named Willow. She loved the fresh air of the forest and often spent hours playing beneath her favorite tree, which she called the Breathing Tree. Its leaves rustled gently, as if it were sighing softly, filling the air with cool, sweet oxygen. One day, Willow noticed something strange. The breathing tree's leaves were turning brown earlier than usual, and the air no longer felt as fresh. Her grandmother explained, "It's because of emissions, my dear. Smoke from factories and cars fills the air, making it hard for trees and even us to breathe." Willow frowned in confusion. "But how can smoke so far away hurt my tree?" Her grandmother nodded wisely. "That's how climate change works, Willow. The entire world is connected, like a big family. What happens in one place can affect another." Willow couldn't stop thinking about what her grandmother had said. She started telling her friends about the breathing tree and how emissions were hurting it. "We have to make people aware," she said passionately. With her friends, Willow organized a valley-wide clean air campaign. They planted saplings, made colorful posters, and encouraged everyone to use bikes or walk instead of driving. At first, no one cared about the issue, but with her determination, over the years, she succeeded in persuading everyone in the valley to follow the Green Campaign. After several years, the valley looked alive with energy. People were smiling, the sky seemed clearer, and Willow thought she saw the breathing tree's leaves glimmering with hope. "Even small steps can make a difference," she whispered, patting the tree's trunk. Willow became the valley's little ambassador of awareness, reminding everyone that by taking care of the environment, they were also taking care of each other and the breathing tree. The tree stood taller and greener than ever, and Willow felt a warm, proud feeling in her chest every time she saw its leaves dancing in the breeze. And so the valley's story of small steps and big hearts began to spread, inspiring other valleys to protect their own breathing trees.
The Tale of the Curious Lantern. In a small, peaceful village, there lived a spoiled child named Max. Max had everything he wanted: shiny toys, piles of sweets, and attention from every adult. But despite all of this, Max was known as a difficult child. He never listened to anyone and was always up to mischief. Max wasn't mean-spirited. He was simply full of energy and easily excited. His mind was bright and imaginative, always dreaming up adventures. Unfortunately, his playful nature often made him forget rules, like when he tried to ride the neighbor's goat as a noble steed, or built a rocket out of kitchen pots, ruining his mother's best saucepan. One warm summer evening, as the stars began to twinkle, Max's grandmother handed him an old lantern. "This is no ordinary lantern," she said. "It holds the secrets of the world, but only the curious and brave can discover them." Max's eyes lit up. He was always curious about the world, and the idea of a magical lantern thrilled him. "What secrets?" he asked eagerly. "Ah," Grandmother said mysteriously, "you'll have to find out yourself. But beware, Max. If you're too dependent on adults, the lantern will never show you its magic." That night, Max snuck out with the lantern in hand. The village fields stretched endlessly before him, glowing under the moonlight. Suddenly, the lantern flickered and began to glow brighter. Max felt his excitement bubbling over as a soft, golden trail of light spilled from it. "This is it," he whispered. Following the trail, Max found himself deep in the forest. He was innocent and curious, marveling at the fireflies, the rustling leaves, and the hoot of an owl. But soon the lantern's glow dimmed, leaving Max in darkness. For the first time, he felt unsure. "I can't do this alone," he muttered, wishing he'd brought an adult. But then something sparked in his mind. Grandmother's words. "If you're too dependent on adults, the lantern will never show you its magic." Max took a deep breath. "I don't need someone else. I'm smart enough to figure this out." He remembered the matches grandmother had taught him to use. Carefully, Max struck one and relit the lantern. The trail reappeared, and with renewed courage he followed it until he reached a sparkling stream. The lantern's light faded again, but Max didn't panic. He knelt by the water and saw tiny silver fish jumping in the moonlight. At that moment, Max understood. The lantern wasn't leading him to treasure. It was teaching him to see the wonder in the world and rely on his own imagination and bravery. The next morning, Max returned home. He was still the same playful and energetic child, but something had changed. He was less disobedient and a little more thoughtful. The village noticed it too. Max still dreamed big and caused a little trouble here and there. But now he listened more, thought things through, and found joy in discovering the world around him, without always needing someone to hold his hand.
The road to strength. Jake was an ordinary boy who never cared much about fitness. He spent most of his days playing video games and eating snacks, but deep down, he often felt tired and unhappy. One day, while walking past a park, he noticed a group of people exercising together. They were running, lifting weights, and smiling as if they were truly enjoying themselves. That night, Jake couldn't stop thinking about them. What if I could be like that? He wondered. The thought scared him. He was not fit, not strong, and certainly not brave enough to try. But something inside him whispered, "Be brave. Take the first step." The next morning, Jake stood nervously at the edge of the park. His heart raced, not from exercise, but from fear. He felt out of place among the fit, confident people. But just as he was about to leave, an older man walked up to him and said, "Everyone starts somewhere, kid. Just move." Encouraged, Jake began jogging slowly. It wasn't easy. His legs burned, and he felt like quitting after just a few minutes. But then he remembered why he started. "I want to improve," he told himself. "Not just my body, but my life." Days turned into weeks, and Jake stayed consistent. He pushed himself to run a little farther, lift a little heavier, and eat healthier meals. It wasn't perfect. Some days were harder than others, but each time he felt like giving up, he reminded himself of his goal: to live a more fulfilling life. Over time, Jake noticed changes. He could breathe easier, his clothes fit better, and he felt more confident. But what surprised him most wasn't the physical transformation. It was the mental one. He felt stronger, not just in his body, but in his mind. Challenges that once scared him now felt manageable. Months later, Jake stood at the starting line of his first 5K race. The boy who once doubted himself was now brave enough to face the challenge. As he crossed the finish line, tears filled his eyes. This wasn't just a race, it was proof of his journey, one of determination, effort, and growth. Jake's story didn't end there. Fitness became a part of his life, not just for his body, but for his soul. He learned that staying healthy wasn't about being perfect. It was about being brave enough to start and strong enough to keep going. And from that day on, Jake knew he could solve anything life threw at him. The call and the storm. Lila lived in a quiet village surrounded by hills and fields. She was known for her kind behavior, always helping others and spreading warmth wherever she went. Every evening, she would take a walk along the footpath that cut through the fields, leading to her grandmother's cottage. One evening, as Lila prepared to leave, the sky turned dark. A formidable storm was rolling in, and the winds howled like a warning. Her mother called out, "Lila, stay home tonight. The storm is too dangerous." But Lila hesitated. Her grandmother lived alone and always waited for Lila's visit. She worried the old woman might feel scared during the storm. "I'll just call her," Lila decided, picking up her telephone. When the line connected, Lila heard her grandmother's shaky voice. "Oh, dear, the storm is fierce. I've been trying to light the candles, but my hands are trembling." Lila's heart sank. "Don't worry, Grandma. I'm coming." Ignoring her mother's protests, Lila grabbed her raincoat and stepped onto the vehicle track that ran beside the footpath. The rain poured down, drenching her instantly, but she kept walking, determined to reach her grandmother. The storm raged on, with lightning flashing across the sky. The footpath was muddy and slippery, and the vehicle track had turned into a small stream. Still, Lila pressed on, her grandmother's voice echoing in her mind. Finally, after what felt like hours, she reached the cottage. Her grandmother was sitting by the window, her face pale but her eyes lighting up when she saw Lila. "Oh, my sweet girl, you came all this way in the storm?" she whispered, tears in her eyes. Lila wrapped her arms around her grandmother. "I couldn't leave you alone." They spent the evening together, huddled under a blanket with the warm glow of candles around them. Despite the storm outside, the cottage felt safe and filled with love. When the storm passed, Lila's grandmother held her hand tightly. "You have the most beautiful heart, Lila. I'll never forget this night." From that day on, Lila's grandmother always smiled when the storm clouds gathered, remembering the night her granddaughter braved the rain just to make sure she wasn't alone. The blizzard cure. The snowstorm had swept in unexpectedly, blanketing the small mountain town of Pine Hollow in a fury of white. Winds howled like restless spirits, and thick drifts buried roads and doorsteps, isolating the residents. Emma, a young researcher studying the impact of extreme weather on public health, found herself stranded at the town's only clinic. Her original plan had been to observe how the remote community coped with the season's harsh conditions, but the storm's ferocity shifted her role from observer to participant. The clinic, already under strain, became a hub for those suffering from frostbite, respiratory issues, and injuries from slipping on icy paths. "Dr. Carr, I'll help however I can," Emma told the clinic's head physician, a grizzled man whose calm demeanor was as steadying as the wood stove's warmth. He nodded, handing her a clipboard. "We're understaffed, so start with triage. People need engagement and assurance just as much as medicine right now." The clinic filled quickly, an elderly man struggling to breathe, a child with a high fever, a young woman who had twisted her ankle trekking through the snow to fetch firewood. Emma moved between patients, her background in public health proving unexpectedly beneficial. She spoke gently to the frightened, explained the symptoms of hypothermia, and even demonstrated a breathing exercise to a boy with asthma. Despite the urgency, Emma found herself drawn to the stories of those around her. The storm had disrupted lives, but it also brought the town closer together. Neighbors checked on one another, shared supplies, and braved the elements to help. Among the patients was Mrs. Hargrove, a widow who lived alone on the outskirts of town. She had developed a hacking cough after spending a night without heat when her generator failed. "This storm is cruel," she rasped, "but people have been kinder than I've seen in years. They carried me here when I couldn't walk anymore." Emma smiled, wrapping a blanket around the frail woman's shoulders. Sometimes adversity reveals the best in us. The snowstorm raged on for 2 more days, but the clinic buzzed with purpose. Emma worked tirelessly alongside Dr. Carr, patching wounds and lifting spirits. She realized the profound impact of her work, not just studying diseases, but helping people overcome them. When the storm finally broke, sunlight sparkled on the snow-covered town, transforming the chaos into a winter wonderland. Residents emerged from their homes, their laughter and relief echoing through the frosty air. As Emma packed her things to leave, Dr. Carr handed her a steaming cup of coffee. "You didn't just help these people, you gave them hope." Emma gazed out at the resilient town, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in her chest. The snowstorm had been fierce, but it had also taught her something important. Even in the harshest conditions, human connection could weather any storm. The Chronicles of the Virtual Voice. The story begins in a small but ambitious startup called TrendSpire, nestled in the heart of Silicon Valley. Its founder, Dana, had always been fascinated by the power of communication in the digital age. Watching trends rise like waves and fade into obscurity, she realized that the future of branding lay not in speaking the loudest, but in speaking with purpose. Dana's breakthrough came when she developed EchoTrend, a platform that didn't just track status updates or monitor hashtags, but could identify the why behind their rise as a trend. It used AI to scan the virtual space for patterns, the tone of comments, the spread of media exposure, and even the subtle timing of blanket coverage across social platforms. EchoTrend didn't just show what was popular, it predicted what would be. Her invention quickly gained traction. Influencers hopped on the bandwagon, eager to use it to refine their online branding. Companies turned to EchoTrend to position themselves at the forefront of the latest movements. The platform became a reliable news source for journalists navigating the chaos of viral content. But with success came challenges. As EchoTrend became the go-to tool for trend monitoring, critics emerged. "Isn't this just another algorithm controlling what we see?" asked one journalist during an interview. "What about authenticity in communication?" Dana, calm and confident, replied, "EchoTrend isn't about controlling the narrative. It's about understanding it. In a world saturated with noise, it's more important than ever to align with meaningful conversations rather than chasing fleeting moments. Despite the skepticism, echo trends' influence grew. One day, a global crisis struck, a natural disaster that left millions seeking help. The usual channels of media exposure were overwhelmed and misinformation spread rapidly. Dana and her team realized the potential of their platform to make a difference. Using Echo Trend, they filtered reliable news sources from the chaotic crowd, amplifying voices providing accurate information and coordinating aid efforts. In real time, the platform tracked the needs of affected areas and connected them with resources. The virtual space became a lifeline, proving that powerful communication tools could do more than build brands. They could save lives. In the aftermath, Dana's Echo Trend wasn't just a tool for marketers or influencers anymore. It became a symbol of what the digital world could achieve when wielded responsibly, a beacon for authenticity, clarity, and connection in a sea of chaos. Hope in Harmony Heights. In the bustling city of Maplewood, a small neighborhood known as Harmony Heights was filled with families living on tight budgets. The streets were narrow and the buildings were old, but the spirit of the people there was strong. They dreamed of a better life, hoping for a place where they could feel safe and happy. One evening, the community center buzzed with excitement. The mayor had called a meeting to talk about changes that could help the neighborhood. Many low-income families showed up, eager to learn what was in store for them. Among them was Anna, a mother of 3, who had lived in Harmony Heights her whole life. She wanted nothing more than a better place for her children to grow up. As the mayor spoke about plans for affordable housing, Anna listened closely. "We want to create homes that everyone can afford. We believe that everyone deserves a higher standard of living," the mayor said, looking at the crowd. The idea of affordable housing felt like a gentle spark of hope in Anna's heart. After the meeting, Anna approached the mayor. "How can we help? We want to be part of this change," she said, her voice filled with determination. The mayor smiled and replied, "We need voices like yours. If you join our community board, you can share your ideas and help shape the future of Harmony Heights." Anna felt a rush of excitement. This was her chance to make a difference, not just for her family, but for all the families in the neighborhood. She agreed to join the board, ready to fight for the changes they all needed. As weeks went by, Anna and her neighbors worked hard. They gathered stories from families, listened to their needs, and shared their dreams for a better community. They talked about safe parks for children, clean streets, and homes that didn't cost too much. Finally, the day came when they would present their ideas to the city council. Anna felt a mix of nerves and excitement as she stepped up to the podium. "We believe in Harmony Heights," she began, her voice steady. "We want a place where our children can play safely and where families can live without worry." The council listened, and Anna could see the interest in their eyes. After a long discussion, the council members voted. The news was announced. The plans for affordable housing and community improvements were approved. The room erupted in cheers, and Anna felt tears of joy fill her eyes. That evening, as the sun set over Harmony Heights, Anna stood outside her small home, watching her kids play with their friends in the street. Laughter filled the air, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. The changes they had fought for were on their way, and she knew that a brighter future was just around the corner for everyone in their neighborhood. A home beyond the horizon. The city of Ariston sparkled on the horizon, a beacon for those fleeing hardship. Zara and her 10-year-old daughter, Layla, arrived after weeks of travel, leaving behind a drought-stricken village. Ariston's promise faded as they approached its outskirts. Rows of makeshift housing sprawled chaotically, built from whatever materials could be salvaged. Their assigned unit was no better, cramped with cracks in the walls and barely enough space to sleep. "It's so small," Zara murmured, placing their single bag of belongings on the floor. Layla, ever optimistic, smiled. "But it's ours now, Mama. We're safe." Life in the city was grueling. Housing shortages had left millions crammed into temporary shelters, and public amenities buckled under the swelling population. Schools ran triple shifts, clean water was rationed, and Zara's work as a nurse at a community clinic revealed a city fraying at the seams. One evening, as Zara treated a construction worker injured on the job, she asked, "Why keep coming here? The city's full." The man, his hands calloused and blistered, replied with a weary smile, "Because there's nowhere else to go. At least here, there's a chance." Zara understood. Back home, the fields had turned to dust, and her village clinic lacked even the most basic supplies. Like so many others, she had staked everything on Ariston's promise, though it often felt more like a gamble. Layla thrived in her own way, making friends at school and bringing hope back to their tiny shelter. "They're building apartments near my school," she announced one evening. "Maybe we can live there someday." Zara nodded, though she doubted it. Construction cranes dotted the skyline, but new homes never seemed to reach those in need. The city's air grew heavier with pollution, rivers ran dark with runoff, and green spaces vanished under concrete. Even at the clinic, respiratory illnesses were on the rise. Yet amidst the city's mounting challenges, Zara found purpose. Each wound she healed, each patient she comforted, reminded her of why she had come. Not to escape hardship, but to build something better. One afternoon, Layla brought home a seedling from school. "It's for planting trees," she explained. "It'll grow big one day, Mama." Zara planted it in a tiny patch of dirt outside their shelter, watering it every morning. Watching it sprout gave her a sense of hope she hadn't felt in months. Ariston's problems, overcrowding, migration, environmental collapse, seemed insoluble. But Zara realized she couldn't fix everything. All she could do was keep going, planting small seeds of change. A life saved, a tree watered, a daughter nurtured. Because sometimes even the smallest acts could root hope in a place desperate for it. Waves of relief. For years, Lily had lived with chronic pain. It began as a dull ache in her back, but grew into a constant, gnawing presence that ruled her days and stole her nights. Medications only dulled the edges. The sharp reality of her condition remained. Alongside the pain, anxiety crept in, worries about her future, her independence, and whether she'd ever feel like herself again. On a particularly bad morning, Lily's sister, Maya, visited. "You've been cooped up for too long," Maya said, her voice gentle but firm. "There's this place by the ocean. It's supposed to be calming. Let me take you." Lily hesitated. Traveling felt daunting, even with Maya's help. But something in her sister's encouragement, a spark of hope she hadn't felt in months, made her agree. When they arrived, Lily was greeted by the sight of endless waves stretching to the horizon, their gentle rise and fall mirroring a deep, steady breath. Maya set up a chair on the sand and helped Lily ease into it. "Just listen," she said. At first, Lily resisted. She focused on the pain in her body, the tightness in her muscles, but as minutes passed, the rhythmic crashing of the waves began to seep into her awareness. The ocean seemed to speak in a language of peace, its sound washing over her and dissolving some of the tension she carried. The salty air filled her lungs, and for the first time in months, Lily felt herself relax. The vastness of the ocean made her worries feel smaller, less insurmountable. "This is nice," she admitted softly. "It's more than nice," Maya replied, smiling. "It's healing." Over the next few days, they returned to the beach. Maya encouraged Lily to try small steps, walking a few paces along the shore, feeling the cool water lap at her feet. Each day brought a little more confidence, a little more ease. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant streaks of orange and pink, Lily turned to Maya. "It doesn't take the pain away completely," she said, "but it gives me something else, a boost, a moment where it's not all I feel." "That's enough," Maya said. "That's a start." The beach became their sanctuary, a place where Lily could find relief and calm, even if only for a while. Though her chronic pain remained, the ocean taught her something profound. Peace wasn't the absence of struggle. It was finding moments of grace within it.